Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the essentials that I feel like you need to crochet, and then also what I carry in my little crochet day-to-day basket or bucket thing. And then I'm going to be talking about what I typically like take with me on the go. So I got this bucket little basket thing for organization a while ago. I got a few of them. I think they were like two for $1 or something like that. And originally it was used for organization. That's what we used it for. And then once I started crocheting more and like getting all of these like little things, I was like, oh, this is a great way to like hold all my stuff that I need. First, I'll talk about hooks. I would say if you're a beginner crocheter, you don't need this many hooks. You don't need a bag full of hooks, but I think at some point you probably over time as you do more projects, you'll probably use different hooks every once in a while for different projects. Once you like know what you like though, like I still reach for mostly the same hooks. I probably reach for, let's see, my ones with the cushion. I hook, which is 5.5, I believe. I use that often. I use my 5mm, which is H. So I and H I use a lot. And then I just recently started using K, which I've been enjoying using. K is 6.5, 6.5. So these are like the three for me most common. And like I have these are like flexi rods that you put in your hair, like rollers, dry or heatless curls. I like move them from one flexi or from one hook to another hook if I'm using this one. But this is what's on my hook now because this is currently what I'm using for a project. And then I just have like the rest of all my hooks that can fit in here. That's basically what I have in here. My weaving noodles, oh my goodness, needles. And then when I got like a central machine, they gave you like one of these little things. And then I have like, I've never crocheted with this before. It's 1.4mm. And then I also have like some bobby pins because I used to use, well, I do sometimes still use bobby pins, but for stitch markers. So I do keep some of these on hand. And then I have like some sewing needles. So I have different like little tiny ones at the bottom. And then all my hooks. Like I said, you definitely don't need this many hooks. This is kind of, a lot of these are repeated hooks. So if I'm using a hook on a certain project and I don't want to take it apart, I will just go grab the same hook in another one. And then some of them are just made different. Like this one has, what is it called when you hold it? And so I have a couple of those in here. I used to use this one a lot. This is a 3.75, but I don't really use it that much anymore. This is an 8. I did make some blankets with this one. I have some fatter hooks. So this one, 11.5. You know, your hook collection kind of just grows as you grow. Most of these I got from my grandmother after she had passed. So I already had a lot of these. And then some of these I got from a friend who didn't like to use small hooks at all. I think she only used like an 8mm and didn't want to waste all the other ones. So I ended up getting a ton. And then I have this little nail file. I got it from my grandmother. It was in her stuff and I just never got rid of it. I never use it. I never touch it. It's just in there. And then I have these little things that are obviously not crochet hooks, but I used to loom knit quite often actually. I haven't loom knitted in a while, but my daughter sometimes likes to, so she'll just take one and she'll use this to loom knit. Anyhow, that is my collection of crochet hooks, and I keep it in this little bag so that way they're just not scattered around. I've been meaning to make like a crochet hook bag that you can crochet and then put your hooks in, but this is just like, it kind of works. It's convenient. The only hook that I have that doesn't fit in here is this one. It's just too long, and this one is 15.75. So, and I believe I only made like one thing with this before, and I haven't made anything else since. but I have it. It's fun. I'm sure one day I'll make a blanket with this. I want to make a really fluffy, soft blanket. The next thing I have in my little basket is another bag. I have bags in my bags. In my, I have bags. I have a bag. I have bags in my basket. I have this bag, which I actually got from my great grandmother after she had passed, and it just has buttons in it. It's full of just different kind of buttons and safety pins and little clasps like for your shirt or sweater. There are some things for like sewing and sewing machines. I do have a sewing machine, but mostly this is just buttons, and it's really fun if I'm doing a project that requires a button, or if I want to add a button on. I love having this bag full of buttons that is kind of meaningful because it came from my great grandmother, and so it's kind of fun. So I just keep this also in there. I don't always use them, but they're small pieces and I like to be able to keep track of them. Oh, and buttons are obviously something that is not essential when you first start crocheting. It's just something that I have. Next, you're going to need a good pair of scissors. Well, you're going to need a pair of scissors. I feel like yarn is not super tricky to cut, but as long as you have a pair of scissors, I think you'll be good. These are the scissors that I have. They're like literally nothing special. I got these from Office Max, I think, a while ago, or maybe it was Walmart. I don't remember. They're my craft scissors, and they're normally always in my bucket. And the next thing I have, which I use more lately, is a tape measure. I started by not using the tape measure. I actually didn't use the tape measure when I first started crocheting, so I'm not going to say that this is a must. I do think gauge is important. I do think that making sure you know how big or small your garment is important. But when you're first starting to crochet, most of the time you're following a pattern, and so you don't really need a tape measure because you're just following a pattern. Most patterns are going to tell you how many stitches, and so you don't need to measure. There are a few patterns out there that say if you're, from shoulder to shoulder, if it's this many inches, then crochet a chain this many inches. So it will still come in handy, but I wouldn't say like it's an absolute must. If you can't find a tape measure or ruler, I think it'll be okay. I think a lot of people use the yarn that they have and they just measure and then they hold it like that. It's really simple. It doesn't have to be difficult. But if you do make more garments and you make more clothing pieces that fit people, like that are custom to that person, you are going to definitely want a tape measure because you're going to want your outfit to be customized to your size. So I do think that that is important. If it just depends on what you're crocheting, but if you're crocheting blankets and cute accessories and stuff like that, you don't really need a tape measure. If the pattern is written differently and you do want to gauge, a tape measure could be useful. I also have one of these, which I have no idea what the name of this is called. Stitch and needle 5-in-1 gauge. I use this not as much anymore because I don't do a ton of gauging. I used to use this a lot more when I started, but basically you can just make a 4 or 2 inch of whatever it is, whatever pattern you're using, whatever hook you're using, and then you can count right here how many rows up and how many stitches across. And so you can gauge, okay, for 2 inches on a 5mm hook with 4 worsted weight yarn will get me this. And so this does come in handy. Like I said, I haven't used it in a while, but it does because you can like measure, you can measure your stitches and your rows, but then you can also, all these holes right here, which is really cool, you can measure any needles, knitting needles or crochet hooks you have, and it shows the number or the letter of whatever that either crochet hook size is or knitting needle size is. So I don't use it much anymore, but in the beginning, if you do like to do swatches, this would be a good way to go. The next thing I keep in here are pens and pencils, partially because I just don't want to lose them and my kids will take them from me if I just have them out somewhere. So I keep them in here, but they also come in handy if I am making my own pattern, if I'm not gonna type it up on my computer right away. I just have a little journal and I'll just, mark up whatever the pattern is, or if I'm drawing out a pattern before I make it so I can envision it before I start. So I have a ton of markers and pens. Lastly, I have just a handful of thank you cards that I made, and they just are just these cute little cards that say thank you on them in different ways. I did have a business where I was just selling anything that I made, and these would be the thank you cards that I sent out. And so if somebody does buy something for me, I typically just make sure I have something that says thank you on it, and that's it. This is what I keep at the house. I don't take this box out of the house. I don't feel like it's really necessary. So when I'm on the go, I don't bring this whole thing. I typically am already working on a project, and it's typically a big project, so I'm not like changing yarns, or I'm not changing hook sizes, or I'm not doing a lot of cutting. I like crocheting on the go when I'm sticking to one color and I'm just doing one thing. I'm just doing one pattern, one color, and it's a big project. Unless it's like something small and we're not going very far. But if I'm like crocheting at a park, I just want to do something that I don't have to change or cut or anything like that, or I don't want to bring a ton of yarn. So I'll bring whatever hook it is for that project that I'm working with, and then the yarn itself. Like literally, that's it. Sometimes I just carry it out. I don't have like a bag or anything, but recently I have been thinking about testing out a couple bags that I made and using them as my crochet bags when I go out to crochet. I have been thinking about purchasing like a bag just for when I crochet out, but like I said, I don't really bring any of these things when I crochet out. And I just don't know if that's necessary for me because I crochet at home. Like I'm a stay-at-home mom, so it just makes sense for me. But if you're out all the time and it makes sense for you, you might want to think about getting a bag to crochet out. That's it. That's my bag. That's the stuff that I believe that you need. You really just need one hook, one skein of yarn, and maybe a pattern, but you don't even really need that. Just have fun because you can make literally anything. So, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you have not already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button down below and tell me what necessities you use to crochet or what it is that you think I may have forgotten. Thanks again for watching. Bye.